Is it true that you came up with the idea for like Girls Gone Wild through banned on television, like banned from television? Like, is that where this came from?
The genesis of Girls Gone Wild was me doing banned from television in my office and working on the next thing, and just simply being there on at 10 o'clock at night and watching a VHS tape roll of extra footage from a stringer, from a guy who had submitted footage, and saw this footage, and this was extra footage. This is the days when we reused videotapes because they were expensive.
Yeah.
And and this was just footage that he had recorded over of his own personal library. And I called the guy and I said, how about the spring break stuff? I said, how many hours of that do you have? I said, I'll buy the other stuff, the balloon accident, but the balloon falling out of the sky. But this other stuff, how much do you have of this? And he was like, 2,000 or 3,000 hours. And I said, really? I said, do you want to sell that library? And he's like, oh yeah, I've never thought about it. It's just a hobby. I go, okay, well, I'm gonna make you an offer. So I made him an offer and bought the library. And then that was the beginning. And then we eventually obviously had to go into filming our own, for our own policies and procedures and legalities. We had to go into filming our own product. But that was the start.
You just said what? Like you saw a girl who picked up her shirt and said, this is something?
Like, it was one of those nights where, you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a company, you really didn't have 3 employees and one computer and we were still making a lot of money with band. I mean, it was going, but in those days it was different. I just had my feet up on the desk and call on the desk, and the video just keeps rolling from where it was, and didn't have time to stand up, walk across the room and press stop on it, and it just kept going and fast. And I thought this, and then I just kept watching it on the phone call, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. And then, I remember I went to every video store in all of Los Angeles County, Orange County, everywhere, because in those days there wasn't the internet. So just to see if it had ever been done before, and it had never been done before. And I couldn't believe it. And it turned me on. So I figured it would turn other guys on. And really, I was the first guy to ever advertise sex on television. And it just absolutely exploded.
And that's how it was. Like, you took this concept, Girls Gone Wild, and did this long format infomercial, and thought that if someone were flipping the channels and they saw a girl, they would stop, and that's how it would be advertised.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Look, when you create a direct response television ad, like meaning direct response, meaning you have an 800 number or a website, you have 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60 seconds to get someone to understand your product, to get them to like your product, convince them that they need your product, and then ultimately get them to make the decision to buy your product and take action. So that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm able to do that with it's a talent. I'm able to do that with success, and 100% of the time. So because I know how to do that.
Well, so when you started like going and then making your own videos and growing this thing, like how did you get all of these girls to want to do it? Like, was it money? Was it like, here's some alcohol? Or was it like that typical, like, like today everyone wants to be an Instagram star, TikTok. Was it that same mindset of like, you want to film me? Sure.
That's it. 100%. Every girl on Girls Gone Wild Instagram. Look, what is Instagram? Girls Gone Wild 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what it is. What's the difference? What's the difference?
There's none.
There's no difference. That's why everybody's like, controversial. You're controversial. I Love Lucy was controversial in the 1950s, right? Because they slept in the same bed. So I Love Lucy was controversial. Yeah, 30 years ago, maybe I was controversial, but today to call me controversial, I think that's a stretch.
You were called controversial. You were called a lot of things.
I know a lot of names too.
But
Unfairly.
Girls Gone Wild. So I mean, it became like, a multi-million-dollar company. Like, when did you realize this is it? Like, this idea, like, when was it like, okay, this is it?
I mean, by 2001, we're doing $100 million a year. Brad Pitt's wearing our hats. Justin Timberlake's wearing our hat. I have dual deals with Lil Wayne, not Lil Wayne, Snoop Dogg at that time, Eminem, who was nominated for Academy Award the next year. And, I had 3 aircraft, Gulfstream, a Falcon, and a helicopter. And I had never even been on a private plane when I bought my plane. I've been on once, and then I bought it right after. My first private plane ride, and I asked the pilot at the end, I said, how much is one of these? I was on a Gulfstream, and he told me, and then I'm like, call me next week. This is the day we have business cards. Call me next week. I want to buy this. I want to buy one just like and I bought it in cash.
So what was that? Was that like your first big splurge? I mean, like, what, what I mean?
No,
Like, how did you adjust to, like, people go from like, one day you're not making money and the next day you're making a ton. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you remember that? Like, that's a big deal, right? Like, did you go wild and crazy and it was just like, I just want to buy everything?
never. I'm
Really?
very conservative. I never spent any money. No, I never
You're
spent any money. And like, I didn't
except for your
buy the
private plane.
G5. No, but I didn't buy the G5 at the time. You know what I'm saying? I bought the G3. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, and I paid cash. So I never had any debt. Paid cash for everything. So no, I'm
Well,
very conservative, and I saved all my money, and I never spent any money. I was, all these things are relative. So when I say I didn't spend
right.
any money, I mean, I could have spent a lot more money than, um, but nobody knew ever what we were making, which is the best because it's never been reported truly. I've never talked about it, and they're only guesses from people, which is such the great thing. No one knows what we made. No one knows at all how much I'm worth. No one knows anything ever because we've never ever disclosed anything to anyone.
Well, you
Other
must have,
than
yeah.
in the early 2000s, there were financials that went around confidentially. So there's a handful of people I would say that knew the real numbers and were very impressed when they tried to buy our company.
Well, you must have been loving life. I mean, you're filming these girls and you're traveling on, like, I mean, that's like a great life, right?
My friend, I love life now, and I loved life when I was poor. I love life because life is life. Money doesn't make life great or interesting or any different for me. I mean, I always knew that I would have all that stuff. For some reason, I always knew I would have a private plane.
You did.
I mean, as a kid, I don't know. I never really thought about making, like, my goal in life was never to make money. The people whose goal in life, who set out and say, I want to make this much money, if your goal is money, you will never be successful because money is just a byproduct of success. And that's what people
Yeah.
don't understand. That's what people miss. My whole thing in life is with everything I do, whether it's girls gone wild, whether it's guys gone wild, where it's renting a property in Mexico, whether it's my clothing line, whether it's a 4-star resort that I might own, maybe not, whatever, all of those. My goal is to bring value and the ultimate value into someone's life. And if they pay for value and come back to it and they like it, they're going to be a repeat customer of mine.